So welcome all. So this is going to be your first session, your orientation session for your QEP Plus program, right? Okay, QEP Plus program. QEP Plus essentially is going to be three aspects. I think you must have all gone through the initial intro video. You're going to be having something called answer writing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You're going to be having mentorship. Okay, so that is another one. And the third part, it also includes your test series. Now, I'm basically assuming, you're writing mains in 2025. Okay, some of you might also be writing mains in 2026, right? So whatever advice that I give, I'm generally going to try to sort of cater to the 2025 writers. Okay, 2026 ke liye, I'll basically tell you, you try to do this as an experience for 2026 by trying to handle the same sort of load as the ones writing mains for 85 days, right? Okay. Generally, first mains is very difficult. Most of you guys who have written mains before, you will understand. Wo 3 months mein kuch, it's very difficult to get everything under control. To consolidate everything that you have done in 2 months, in the third month, it's basically a little bit of a challenge. So, ek bar, even if you're not writing mains, if you can actually get that real experience of writing mains, I think that is a huge win for you, right? So that is that. But of course, the flexibility is there. It is going to be lasting you for a little longer, a lot longer, right? Okay. So, but you use it wisely, right? Flexibility sometimes could be a bad thing, but it's it's a double-edged sword. So I'm sure that you'll be responsible with it. Okay. So I'm basically going to talk about each of the features, and later I'll also tell you about like how to use this program to the maximum benefit. See, pehle na, the way to score in anthropology, first step is basically going to be building a strong conceptual core, right? A strong conceptual core essentially basically means, you want to have, a good idea of different aspects of your syllabus, okay? And we don't want it to be a little patchy. See, what do I mean by patchy? Patchy means, let's say you have a particular chapter, and that chapter is, let's say you take a chapter called 1.5, which is going to be your primates and the different kind of primates, all of those, right? So, if you only study the PYQs from that particular chapter, okay, and you're prepared with those, I would say that is a little patchy, right? Because then you start thinking, okay, this thing is not important, it doesn't come that often and things like that. So eventually you become, picking and choosing from different parts of the syllabus. Anthropology, guys, is a very, chota sa syllabus hai. Really, I'm telling you, in comparison to many other sort of subjects, okay, the amount of the syllabus is relatively smaller, and there is a reason for it. And the reason essentially is that a lot of the parts of the syllabus are basically interrelated. Your entire socio-cultural anthropology is related to your Indian society, which is an application of all of these kind of concepts to Indian society, matlab the mainstream society, okay, the non-tribal sort of societies that were kind of isolated. Even tribal society is essentially a application of your paper 1 ka socio-cultural anthropology. So net in agar aap dekhoge, it's relatively a small syllabus. So all parts of your syllabus, first step is that you have to remember, to be sort of like strong with the different parts of your syllabus. Okay. Once that is done, okay, each week we'll have some sort of a target that is, breakup diya hua hai, and I'll basically go through it as well. Okay. And after that, once you basically do a little bit of reading and come, I'm not going to be expecting you to know every part of the syllabus and memorize everything and, all the facts and all the thinkers and all those. But I want a general idea in you about all those topics. And then you basically come for this answer writing session. Answer writing session works like this. Okay. So we are going to, so here's my idea, and let's see how it basically unfolds. What I want you to do is that, let's say on Saturday you have a test. Okay. Monday, Wednesday, Friday is going to be, you're going to be writing on those topics. Again, I'll give you micro targets. We'll basically go through that as well. Okay. So we'll have micro targets, and wahan pe we'll basically write some answers before you actually go and write it on your exam day. When you write on your exam day, when I say exam, so your mock test, right? So your Saturday ka mock test mein, I would like for you to have a particular kind of volume even before you write any mock test. So a lot of students basically do this. Okay, so let's say कि आपको Sunday को test है, Saturday को test है. So Monday through Friday आप सिर्फ पढ़ते हो. Okay, and then weekend में आके लिखते हो. You've not actually written much. So let's not make it that way. Okay, so because if you essentially do this, you have only 12 weeks. Okay, मतलब 1-2 week will basically, मतलब एक हफ्ता is almost gone, right? Okay, and there'll be like another week or so until your results. उसके बाद the last 2-3 weeks again there'll be a lot of things that will be competing for your interest and your time, right? So मतलब आपको मिलेगा 7-8 weekends. Essentially, you can't go into the exam by only using 85 days से just 7 days, 8 days या 9 days या 10 days, of writing. Okay, उस way से you actually cannot be scoring at a very high level. Okay, so this is something that we're going to sort of like intersperse throughout the week. Okay, so it's going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday with me. Okay, and it is going to be some sort of timed writing. I'll basically go into this. Okay, to the answers that you write, I'll basically provide you with hints and what am I expecting there and what should be the kind of debate or hypothesis that you could have actually introduced into that particular answer and so on. Like, मतलब आपको चाहिए क्या? That is basically what I would be providing you with. I would suggest that when you start with this particular program, have at least एक finalize करो आप. Okay, no material is bad. Okay, for the mains writing students for 2025. अगर आपने कुछ किया है till now, okay, swear by it. Okay, at least for the basics. Okay, the value add ke liye, the top up ke liye, all those things will be covered. So don't worry about this. So you can depend here. But for that 80% of that basics wala thing, okay, you stick with what you know, right? So if I have basically given you a particular kind of definition, theek hai. If you have GP Murdoch as your definition, I have basically somebody else, XYZ wala this thing, you do not have to change to this particular thing. Right? Unless I basically say, okay, so this definition is better than this definition, it's an improvement over that particular definition. Other koi logic hai, so yes, but otherwise you basically stick with it, right? So 80% you stick with that because 80 days is too less time to sort of like, explore a completely new way, new topic, new notes, everything karna thoda sa mushkil ho jayega, right? So the rest of the validation, you depend on us, right? So there's going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday is going to be writing of answers, okay, and then basically taking a look at some answers. I'll also provide some answers. See, this is not the ideal, perfect kind of answer, but I will basically try to provide you an answer that are generally considered to be one of the best kind of answers that can be done in actual example. Okay, some of them will basically be even answers written by the toppers, right, who have given the exam, who have done extremely well. Okay, we'll discuss those as well. Okay, so that is realistic. 7 minutes mein, 11 minutes mein, 14 minutes mein, there is the kind of answers that you write is generally, so within the same constraints. So let's say I'm basically giving you a particular question, okay, and I'm making you write an answer, and I give you 7 minutes for it, 11 minutes for it, 14 minutes for it, okay, I am not going to make you compare it with somebody who has written that as an assignment without a time limit, right? So those answers that you're going to see will be realistic answers. Okay, it will be practical answers and good answers. Okay, good answers that basically can get somebody into that particular list, right? But it will still be subjected to the same sort of constraints. Time ka constraint, okay, the same constraint that you have. So in case I give you 8 minutes, 8 minutes. If I give you 7 minutes, 7 minutes. Okay, if I give you, you get the picture, right? It should be the same sort of number of words, right? You might know a lot about cultural relativism, but I've given it to you for 10 marks. Okay, so you have only 2 pages. So the answer that I basically show you will also be an answer that is possible within 7 minutes and within 2 pages, right? Word limit, space limit, time limit, whatever you write, okay, something along those lines. Apart from that, I also provide you with synopsis. Okay? Okay, yeah. Okay, then I'll basically provide you with valuation kind of things that you require, and this is generally going to be done from Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Even in our sessions, we'll basically discuss a few things that I would like for you to sort of implement on your Saturday. Knowing is one thing, ensuring that makes its way into the relevant parts of those questions, jahan pe it is relevant, okay, in that exam hall within that 7 minutes by thinking on it, okay, is a challenge, right? A lot of students will basically come out and be like, actually, I knew this part. I could have actually connected this particular case study there. Oh, this particular scholar basically said so and so, which is very relevant to this particular question, but exam mein, okay, it did not click, right? I wrote something else. Right, so this basically requires a lot of practice in implementing. It requires a lot of practice in executing. बार-बार यहाँ पे करोगे, right? So then in exam when you write those answers, वहाँ पे it will basically click. Okay, so उसके लिए we need practice. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever we learn in valuation, I'm expecting you to sort of go implement and execute it and tell me that you've been able to do it as well. Yeah, you've not been able to do it, and why not? And then we can figure it out. Okay, you'll also have mentorship. Okay, I really feel that you should make the most out of this particular option, which is a mentorship. Okay, I am available here. Okay, you try to make the most out of it. Okay, I'm not going to force you to come and meet me or speak to me or to the other mentors or whatever it is. But I'll tell you that there is a merit in this, right? 85 days is a very short period. 85 days is also a very lonely period for you. Every day you're going to feel like, why am I not better? Okay, I feel like I want to do a lot of things. My intentions are very nice. I'm feeling I'm very disciplined. I woke up at so and so time. I basically sat down on my seat. But why aren't the final outcome? Okay, at the end of the day, why is it not feeling like what I had targeted in the morning, right? So always remember, whatever is the issue, try to reach out. Okay, try to see if somebody else can give you a third person perspective on the kind of progress. Right, sometimes you might be not very realistic in terms of planning कि आपका progress होना क्या है, like to what extent should you progress at what time. If you feel that Monday, Wednesday, Friday को आपने लिख लिया, okay, Saturday को आपने social cultural answer test लिख लिया, and then you assume that you're going to be able to complete that paper within those 3 hours, and you're going to bring in the kind of quality that you did or that you want in actual exam, आपको मिलेगा in your very first week. That okay, so somebody will tell you कि ठीक है, that may not be that realistic. But that is why you are coming here and struggling it out week after week after week after week, right? So in case you're able to sort of write an answer in 8 minutes, we can bring it to 7 minutes and maybe 30 seconds, right? You can bring it to 7 minutes, possibly. You get the picture, right? Over a period of time, right? So improvement is going to be relatively slow. Even your last round of FLTs is not going to be your best paper. Your best paper is actually going to be your final exam, right? But are you in the right track? You have to understand this, okay? In fact, the first 6 weeks, I think, is going to be the biggest challenge for you. The reason being, okay, so this is that. So, sectional test, full length test, test discussion, right? So, this is something that you're going to have. See, we are going to have 6 sectional tests, okay, and then you're also going to have 6 full length tests, okay, model answers, evaluation. So, this is something that I would say that you also have this live one-to-one evaluation, but in case you're writing mains this year, okay, better not to, sit. मतलब इतना time नहीं मिलेगा to basically go through. You see the evaluation, and then if you have any questions or something like that, then you basically come and meet the mentor, you talk to me or whatever it is, right? So this will be me, okay. So this is me, okay. So there you go. You're here already because of I'm sure that you have seen all of this. See, a lot of interesting examples, right? So we have a lot of these toppers. In fact, I had lunch with Aditya yesterday. I had a Zoom call with him today. We were basically discussing a few things. Okay, so interesting examples. I'll go into a little more detail about these guys. In fact, the student got 147, 148, 149, something along these lines. I don't remember the exact number. Okay, in his paper 1 this year, right? So to a great extent, he is in the service because of anthropology, right? She was a mains, मतलब, QEP plus का equivalent last year. Okay, she was in her final attempt, and I think close to 160 in her paper 2, 158, 159, something along those lines. Another example, Yashaswini, right? So she is, in fact, she's very interesting because she, I think within 9 months of taking the course, foundation course, she cleared her prelims. Paper 1 and paper 2 of prelims. It was kind of in the border, but when she got the chance, okay, in her very first main, she basically did really well. Okay, I think she's one of the toppers in anthropology last year. I think 140 plus in both the papers, something along those lines, 285-ish, 200, 285 to 290, somewhere in this particular bracket. Okay, very young, and she was able to sort of manage it. Okay, all different kind of personalities. Okay, different kind of writing styles, but the process they follow, the effort that they put in, kind of similar. Right, so it's all possible. One is a doctor, one is an engineer. Okay, the other is an engineer, the other is a BA, matlab arts ka student. So everything works, right? So it doesn't matter in anthropology, right? You don't have to be. In fact, the doctor who basically scored highest was in paper 2, right? So you can understand. So recently the patterns are kind of different. We'll go into that as well. 6 sectional test is basically what we talked about, right? So 6 sections. So what are the sections? So if I can you can just go through the dates, okay, but I'll just tell you how we have sort of broken these 6 sections, right? So ek hai, and this is not in this exact same order, but I'll just tell you, one is going to be your socio, okay, and cultural anthro. We are basically starting with this, okay. Then you have your biological anthro. I'm having a different module, okay, and technically it should be under your social cultural anthro, but I'm basically going to place another one specifically because the theories wala module is going to be, you're going to see some analytical questions. Okay, exam if you're seeing, right? So they're not asking you very direct questions ki is theory ke bare mein batao, right? So they're basically asking you to apply that particular theory, right? So in case I give you those questions, we have to thoda sa mein detail mein jana hai, right? So I'm basically keeping a whole week for this, but it will be theories. It is going to be your language aspects. Okay, your chapter number 6, your chapter number 7, and also the research methods. Okay, so this I'm putting it in as, okay, theories plus your miscellaneous, right? So you'll have a whole test that is about, questions from theories, okay, and your linguistic. Linguistic is basically chapter 7, it's relatively short, but research methods, again, they're asking some good questions, right? So this is going to be another module. Okay, then in paper 2, there's going to be 2 other modules, but paper 2 mein, I'm going to have Indian society a specific module, which is kind of common, and then we'll have your tribal society of India. Okay, these two I'm sure that you will understand. Okay, so you're going to have one for this and one for this, and then in dono ka a combination. Tell me if this is visible on screen, right? In dono ko mila ke, there is going to be a combined module, and that is going to be your archaeology and your primates. Sorry, fossils. Okay, when I say fossils, can I call it hominins? Okay, I'm assuming that all of you know what I'm referring to. Okay, so this is going to be a chapter, basically your 1.5, your 1.6, okay, and your archaeology again from both paper 1 and paper 2. So let's say if I'm basically talking about, hominins, okay, and let's say your hominids, right? So we basically are going to have in paper 1, you're going to have your Australopithecines, you're going to have your Homo family, which is your Homo erectus, your Homo Heidelberg, you have your Rhodesian man, you have your early European sort of Upper Paleolithic peoples, right? And ultimately modern humans, you're going to have your Neanderthals, right? Whatnot. But in paper 2 also, it is going to be included in this particular module, wherein you have your, your Ramapithecus, you're having your Shivapithecus, you also will have your Narmada man, right? Your Homo erectus or archaic Homo sapien, all these kind of debates. Archaeology, again, I don't want to differentiate paper 1 archaeology, paper 2 archaeology. I would expect you to basically study entire archaeology in one go because the principles are the same. Okay, maybe the traditions are slightly different. Okay, and what is the difference? इसको आपको थोड़ा सा in depth में करवाऊंगा, right? And so this is essentially the whole sort of the sequence. This is the sectional tests, right? So 6 days, okay, 6 Saturdays, and this is essentially what you're going to do: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, and then this one as well, right? And this one, I would like for you to make it less factual, in less memory driven, less last minute sort of revision, but a lot more sort of conceptual, a lot more sort of understanding. Is, see, not everything is a matter of fact in anthropology. Okay, anthropology is a science for sure, but you would understand that anthropology in India is still primarily a liberal arts subject. Okay, so barring your biology, even biology, if you see biological anthropology, you have to take the bio, you have to take the science behind it, but then you have to link it to humanity. That's what makes it anthropology, right? So if it is anthropology, again, you have to find a way to sort of link them to how it helps us understand evolution better, yeah, how it basically gives us some insights into variation, or something about the genetics behind it, something about the human body, the human growth, the human health related things, or it could even be about applications. So यहाँ पे भी that liberal arts, that writing ability, that sort of like macroizing it is basically required. The rest of it, a lot more sort of liberal arts is basically what you have. यहाँ पे again, I want you to focus a little more on the analytical nature of things. Direct question, होंगे, you have to basically do that. First, you have to be thorough with your syllabus. जहाँ पे your lower Paleolithic, your middle Paleolithic, your upper Paleolithic, कहाँ पे क्या है is something that you know really well. Okay, you have to understand the sequence of how things progress when it comes to the last 25 million years, yeah, last 8 to 6 million years, right? And and try not to make it very memory driven, because I've seen this multiple years. Students को, even if it's 5 days, 2 दिन चलता है इसको memorize करने में. Okay, and and not only that, ability to sort of handle analytical questions in those topics is thoda sa difficult lag raha hai for a lot of students. Okay, or at least instead of 11 minutes for that particular question, or 14 minutes if it's a 20 marker, it is taking them 2-3 extra minutes, which basically sort of like takes some marks out of the other questions, right? You all have only 3 hours. So this is basically something that I want to say about this, right? So I have handled this as well. Okay, so once you're done with this, I'm assuming that kind of, I told you, right, the first 6 weeks are going to be a little tough, because let's say that you become a little comfortable by this coming Saturday on social cultural. Okay, immediately we switch to another sort of module, and again you basically start from zero, or 1 or 2 or 10 or 20 or whatever it is, right? So whatever level. And again, you try to sort of like become a little better at it, not exam ready, okay, but definitely 1 week's progress you can definitely see. And then again, you switch to so and so. So the first 6 weeks, you're going to start from, you're going to go from, let's say 20 all the way till 80, 85, 90, depending upon whatever your level is. Again, come back to 20, and then again, take it to 75, 80, 90, whatever it is, right? So whatever you can do in that 5, 6 days, 7 days, right? The entire week. This is basically what you do. But you will have a sense of comfort after this. FLT1 and FLT2 is something that you will struggle with a little bit. Okay, and why will that be? FLT1 and FLT2, the challenge essentially is going to be, let's see, what is the date for your FLT1 and FLT2? If somebody can basically just tell me that. Okay, so it's basically going to be July 14th. Okay, and I assume that your exam is going to be on the 22nd of August. Oh, I wish this was a little earlier, but okay, so this is what we can do. We're starting early, right? So you're going to have July 14th. Okay. See, the first FLT is relatively harder because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, sorry, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, you have actually studied it. Okay, and then you will also start forgetting a little bit. Now, to consolidate all of that and remember it, that becomes a little hard. For those of you who have written mains before, you will know it, or those of you who have basically written prelims, you will basically know it. It is easier to write Politica sectional test, yeah, Science and Tech sectional test. Okay, but if you have to basically write your FLT1, you have to study your polity, you have to study your IR, you have to basically study your, economy, history, and history maybe you have to do your ancient, medieval, modern, your culture, right? So it's basically, that becomes a little bit of a challenge. But that is essentially what I want you to do, to basically get like one round of revision done, right? Somehow, on 14th when you're writing it, until here, thoda sa, you'll always feel ki, 10% yahan pe nahi hua, I have to basically, some sort of, backlogs will be there. As much as possible, avoid it. Okay, especially if you're basically targeting the kind of scores that is like 150-ish, right? You do not want to have any sort of backlogs, right? But here, absolutely, ensure that you have sort of completed your syllabus. That is the main thing. And get that experience on July 14th to go and sit for those 3 hours and write an entire paper, jahan pe the questions are is biological anthro, dusra wala is you have to sort of like condition your mind, you suddenly switch and then go into archeo and then suddenly basically go into theories and then again come into, so this thing. So that is an experience, but you get that out of the way. Same thing by so and so. No, sorry, this is my bad, guys. Thank you. I'm just seeing the messages now, and I think you've been telling me this for quite some time. So July 19th is the first date, right? Thoda sa dur hai. I'll fix that. So this is basically, see, July 19th is fine. Okay, so July 19th is definitely fine, but just see to it, the first test FLT. Okay, sorry about the confusion, but I'm telling you here, your first FLT is going to be the day by which somehow you want to ensure that your pura paper ka revision is basically done. Okay, you have the ability, okay, and you have the confidence to say, ki, you know what, I can basically go sit and I'm going to write the whole test, right? And I'm going to try to do it within 3 hours, just like it's an exam. But the main idea should be that you have actually completed all, your biological anthro, your sociocultural anthro, your archaeology fossils. Paper 2 is not much, okay, especially the fossils and primate part. So wo aap kar lo. Okay, and after this, yahan se you basically try to do a little more. And after this, you basically come and, just have a chat, okay, and then see ki, how did it feel, right? Actual exam में score करना is not only an output of how much you have basically studied, but how much you are able to sort of deliver on paper, right? Sometimes you have a certain kind of a knowledge base, but towards in the paper it is not coming in, so you don't think that I'm not adequately prepared. Okay, maybe it just basically requires that you have to keep some things in mind. ये मुझे implement करना है, ये मेरे paper में होने चाहिए, right? So I have to basically write it down in my question paper. You can even basically do the first 5 minutes में you can basically plot आपको कहाँ पे क्या लगाना है. Okay, and just see to it that you're able to execute. There are certain kind of micro strategies that you have to do it. So that is basically after your FLT1 and after your FLT2. By 26, I'm hoping that your anthropology, pura, this studying it, making notes, jo bhi, these kind of works are there, this is basically done. Iske baad it is basically under pressure to be able to deliver on analytical questions. So this is going to be the main challenge, and this is basically going to be the main sort of practice. Agar you're ahead of schedule, that is fine. I'll provide you with more work. Okay, I'll provide you with more tests. That is not an issue. Okay? But minimum इतना तो आपको करना है. Okay, minimum तो आपको इतना तो करना है. Do you guys have any questions? And if somebody can basically just take a look at the questions and tell me. Okay, before I basically go into something else. Okay, so I see one question, and the question is basically, can you come and write a test here? Sir, Delhi office, like if people are in Delhi, they can basically come and write here. Correct? Okay, so second floor mein there is a classroom and you can basically take the test here. So you have a decent setup and very comfortable, I think, you know, reasonably well ventilated. Okay, you can go ahead and do it. My suggestion, doesn't matter where you write from. Okay, but even agar library se kar rahe ho, ghar se kar rahe ho, you know, write it. Okay, so it should not be much of an issue. Don't make the place too comfortable. Okay, actual exam mein aap, matlab, you know, you're not going to have an AC, so you know it's better not to have too much of these earthly comforts while you write your exam. ठीक है, so get used to that. You don't have a fan right above you. Okay, इतना comfort से मत लिखो, because in actual exam, you know, you will feel the difference, right? So that is one thing. So the next set of question that I have is looking forward to the upcoming lecture. Okay, wonderful. Okay, how to prepare for the dynamic part of paper 2 current affairs. Okay, so that's also a good question. A lot of examples, thinkers, definitions. I get confused. What should I do? Okay, okay. Actually, all good questions, all relevant. Now, if I just go here, see, I don't want to make this a very long lecture for you. Okay, this is just an orientation, but I thought I will give you some pointers, right? See, my first thing is, um, see, planning micro is kind of important. इस topic के लिए यहाँ पे मुझे क्या करना है? See, all these things are kind of all very relevant sort of questions. Um, my thing, what I will tell you is, you try to make your sort of checklist on what you've got to get done. And in that particular checklist, I will basically say the first thing should be attendance. Okay, attending everything that you are basically signing up for. So what does that mean here? So let's say, you know, you are doing this answer writing program, come all 30 days. Okay, I will ensure that all 30 days are basically worth your time. Okay, इतना तो I will guarantee it. Okay, you will be challenged. Okay, and you will walk away with something जहाँ पे आपने क्लास में ही पढ़ लिया. Right, so you basically don't have to sort of go back and be like, you know, you इतना material मिल गया. Okay, इतना scholars मिल गए, इतने सारे thinkers हैं, इतना सारी, you know, all these kind of things अभी हम पढ़ लेंगे. Actually, I don't want to make anthropology a very, very large, long subject. Okay, it is a small subject and it is easier to score if you keep it small. Okay, when you make it large, it becomes very much a memory kind of paper. And इतना सारा एग्जाम में, especially in analytical question, जहाँ पे वो यूज कर सकते हो, वहाँ पे स्कैन करके, याद करके उसको seamlessly in एग्जाम में इंटीग्रेट करना is a big challenge. ठीक है, so we will do and you will have enough content, but just try not to run. So I don't want to take names, ठीक है, but I don't want you to run behind too much of content. Okay, because आपको यही प्रॉब्लम लगेगा कि मैं इसको यूज कहाँ करूँ. You know, generally, like I'll tell you, you have to think that, you know, अगर आपके पास content है, you have to know exactly where it is relevant. You understand, right? So let us say आपको एक चीज के लिए, let's say you have a particular case study for land alienation. ठीक है, you should know for sure that you don't need 9 other sort of case studies for land alienation, you know, just because it is relevant. ठीक है, because आप लिख पाओगे एग्जाम में, that's a very simple sort of question, right? It is going to be not possible. Now you might think, what if there is a long answer question? देखो, if it is the exact same thing that has happened, okay, जहाँ पे there has been land alienation, you know, there has been sort of like cultural appropriation, there has been sort of like displacement, there has been, you know, उनका compensation नहीं मिला है. If it is the same for a story, okay, you are validating that sort of argument that you're saying that ये सब हो रहा है by giving one sort of real current example. Okay, the same thing if you repeat it again by just changing the geography or the tribe ka name, it doesn't necessarily add value. You understand that, right? There is more other kind of relevant things that you want to sort of incorporate in your answer. So अगर आपके पास सभी thinkers हैं, सभी points हैं, and सभी case studies हैं, सभी examples हैं, you see to it that you at least have less but more diverse things that you have to remember. Okay, same things का बड़ा सा list अगर आपके पास है, you fix it. यही करना है मुझे. Okay, इसके बारे में अगर क्वेश्चन होगा तो यही है. You understand? Okay, if I don't see a reason why this is going to be something that is going to add more value to my answer on top of what I already have, okay, the second thing you can basically skip, and through that you can actually make your syllabus smaller. Okay, so I hope that that part is kind of clear. Okay, so I'll give you some, right, and it will be relevant and it will be the thing that basically makes you sort of stand out. Okay, come to all those sessions, I'll make your time worth it. Okay, and यहाँ पे जो हम करेंगे, I'll basically ensure कि every class में आप कुछ ना कुछ extra class में ही सीख के जा रहे हो. Okay, so that you can basically implement it on Saturday, and you know that short term pleasure जो मिलता है ना, oh, I had basically done this new, and it's also finding its way into the exam. Okay, and that will give you a good confidence boost as well. Okay, write the tests. Okay, see, tests के बिना I really don't think it is very easy to score beyond the 270 या 135 के ऊपर if you're basically targeting. Without a good volume of tests, it is not possible. It really is not possible, but the student can score. ठीक है, the student has that ability. नहीं, मतलब ability नहीं कहूँगा. The student has basically the potential to score. Okay, but because of lack of that kind of execution, the student is unable to sort of get to that particular score in that particular year. क्या होता है? Again, one full year, right? And you don't know whether you'll have the same sort of drive. You don't know whether there are so many things that happen within that whole year, so you don't want to do it. So tests तो मतलब आपको skip नहीं करना है. And for those of you who are perfectionist, आपको ये problem होगा, right? You are used to writing tests only when you're generally very thorough and generally when you're ready. Okay, in 10th you have done extremely well because you had prepared, बहुत सारे mocks आपने लिख के, when you went to that exam you had basically done it. ठीक है, आपके 10th के books इतने होंगे. Okay, in 12th you basically studied everything and then only you basically went into that exam. This is going to be different, guys. Okay, if you have an 80 days 80-day program अगर हमें बनाना है to be able to study a subject, okay, a subject at a master's level, 80 days में, I am not going to be expecting any perfect sort of answers every Saturday. Not possible. Okay, unless you're one of them who is already written and who are already in the list and it was the previous year itself. Even if it was like मतलब 2 साल पहले, तो उनको याद नहीं रहेगा. Okay, to get that same quality of answers is going to be extremely difficult. So I'm assuming that you are not of that particular level. Okay, so आप ऐसे benchmark मत करो. I was not perfect on Saturday. Saturday is like 5 days away, and 6 days away, 7 days away, mate, to become like extremely perfect at something is going to be difficult. But what I want you to do is that you complete your syllabus, you do your last minute cramming, you do your short term wala this thing, memory mein dalo, okay, and बैठ के just write 50 pages. If you can do this, okay, now you may not be very happy, but आपको जो वो confidence देगा ना, the next day is going to make sure that the next week you're going to work harder than even this week. So I would say कि every Saturday ही लिखना. Okay, and if they've basically given you a particular time, if it is like 9 to 12, I would say stick to it. Okay, and एक बार बना लोगे ना, okay, and don't change it. Like really don't change it. Okay, each time to sort of discipline bana lo, discipline nahi, like routine bana lo. I mean, it is very, very easy for you to sort of maintain it. Right, in school, did we ever have a choice ki matlab hamara routine kya hoga? Right, so in 9 o'clock is basically when we go, 5 o'clock is basically when we come, ya 3:30 ya 1:30, whatever is your school ka this thing. Right, exam ke liye did we ever have a time? No, basically as soon as the bell rings, okay, hamara cramming basically ends, we rush into that exam hall, we basically sit, 5 minute mein paper aayega, and then we start writing. But the second they said, guys, all of you, when you're ready, basically please go to class, sit down and then study, all of us will basically be on the outside. Right? Okay, मतलब मेरे से like last minute में सिर्फ tension ही बढ़ता. I'm sure that some of you might be like me who are like last minute में मेरे like nothing goes in. Right, whatever I have to do, I have to do it like prior. Okay, so some small minority of us may not be doing it, but most of you, if you say कि perfect answers आने हैं, you will never feel like taking that exam in a particular day. But you ensure कि Saturday को 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, you're basically going to sit down, right after your breakfast, one coffee, उसके बाद you're sitting at 9 o'clock. अगर आपने ये कर लिया, whatever is my level, I still have to write an answer. Okay, वो ठीक है, that should be fine. This is going to overall in the long term give you a better score. So इसको आप just मतलब you just try to follow it to the T. Okay, I'll support you in that particular manner also. Nobody's going to judge you. Okay, marks ko chodo, right? Marks, the starting wala marks is not that important, right? And starting wala marks and your final wala marks are going to be extremely different. Okay, so have that kind of that guts to basically go and write that exam every Saturday while being still imperfect. Okay, while pursuing perfection in the longer term, right? Mentorship, please try to come out, reach out to us. You're not alone in this journey, and don't make it an alone wala journey. Okay, the exam itself is like a very lonely part, and you don't know how you're doing, and you hold yourself to very high expectations. That person basically wrote like this, ये सब अब मत कीजिए. Just come to us. Always think कि not where you are today is about like where you want to go. Okay, and what should be done tomorrow, right? So this is basically something that I would basically say कि आपको करना है. Right? See, QEP plus may, let's say we are basically focusing on answer quality because writing answers is okay, but also to an extent, let us say that you also want to increase the quality of your answer. Okay, quality should be the focus if you've already done your syllabus and you've written your sectional test. Okay, quality में I'll basically tell you कि आपके answer के components क्या-क्या होने चाहिए for each of these modules, right? And once I have that, and I'll basically try to give it to you as a checklist. You try to see कि how many of those things you're able to, like just check, right? So when I say quality, the quality basically comes from handling the actual demand of the question that they have given. बहुत simple funda है. right? So quality mein it's very difficult to say ki if I add so and so number of case studies, if I add so and so number of examples, if I add so many, sir, I have basically added like 7 scholars in this particular answer. Actually, it is not about how much you have basically put into your answer, but to what extent what you have put into your answer is relevant to the demand of the answer. Okay, so that is the relevance is there. Okay, that is basically sort of increasing your quality, but this is basically what we are going to focus. So when you come in, I'm assuming that you know what is marriage and what are the different types of marriage and what are the different kind of classification. It is based on what, impact of urbanization. So because of urbanization, how is the family structure basically changing and different. You get the picture, right? ये सब आपको पता होगा, but like what you do in order to sort of like go a little beyond that. Okay. Sectional test may you try to ensure that the basics are very strong. Okay, and slowly after that we basically try to bring in different aspects to your answer to make perfect. Okay, structuring presentation. Okay, and those are all different for different kind of modules. I'll just tell you that anthropology is one of those subjects jahan pe you have multiple different subjects, right? You have a little bit of history, okay, archaeology and your primates and your fossils. Basically, that's your historic, history kind of angle. Okay, you have certain components that are basically biology. You have certain sort of subjects that might even seem like it's like pharmacy, right? You have a lot of subjects that is very sociology. It's basically a combination of many different kind of subjects, right? So every subject may there is a particular way in writing that sort of helps you sort of make more relevance to that answer, make your answer more relevant to be able to sort of meet the exact demand of that question. Okay, biology might require a different sort of skill. Okay, archaeology and fossils may requires slightly different kind of a skill. Why do I say this? Just to give you an example, right? Archaeology and fossils may today in history in your school ka book mein, ancient India mein, when you study it, you basically say ki lower Paleolithic so and so, so and so, so and so. Okay, so and so location, so and so kind of tool, so and so kind of this thing. This is basically what you study. When you write a paper at a master's level, okay, there is nothing very matter of fact. There's nothing very matter of fact. What do I mean by this? So in case you're basically writing an answer to, let's say, human evolution. Now, many of you might basically have this idea, you know what? So this is my human evolution. Let's go to the next page, and this is how you go. Okay, so this is my human evolution, and this is basically my 6 to 8 million years. And pehle ye hua, and pehle ye hua, and pehle ye hua, and pehle ye hua, and then you have your humans. Okay, and then you probably have some, right? Even today, when you write your answer, you're basically trying to write your answer as in you are aware and cognizant of the fact that this is only one way. Okay, now there could be many different sort of differences in this. Okay, it's basically like a branch. Okay, there is something that basically goes this way and some basically, you get the picture, right? So it is not a very singular sort of linear line. Okay, you know that there is Neanderthals. Okay, Neanderthals mein kya hai? Is it something that they really diverged and they became very different? Was there interbreeding? So you understand, right? As we do more research, as we find more fossils, especially of recent hominins, okay, and Swante Pabo and those kind of genomic sort of research that basically happens, we are constantly basically debating this. When they ask you about Africanus, they ask you about Australopithecine, they ask you about Homo erectus, they ask you about Homo habilis is not part of a syllabus. But let us say, right? So when you say Homo habilis, we know for a fact that Louis Leakey basically called it the handyman, the tool maker, right? But we also have evidence of having tools that are even more quote unquote primitive to these tools, which is the basic, your pebble tool sort of tradition, older one kind of tool tradition. We have found even earlier ones, right? Now we don't know exactly who's basically the owner and the makers of those kind of tools. Okay, but that precedes your Homo habilis by 500,000 years, 800,000 years. Right? Who could it be? Lomekwi tools, right? If you guys, want to know about that, right? So Lomekwi tools, like who are they? Okay, is it? And they are found in Eastern Africa. It's found in your Ethiopian region. Lomekwi, matlab that eastern part, right? Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania. यहाँ पे बहुत सारे fossils and these kind of tools are basically being found. So this is there. So what would that mean? So tomorrow we might be able to say that Homo habilis. Okay, so we basically define that Homo family with that tool making sort of traditions, and tomorrow we might have to rewrite this. So to say something is a matter of fact, okay, it becomes very difficult when you're writing at a master's level. So what could be the hypothesis? Okay, so the current sort of understanding is that, okay, it is your Homo habilis, who basically was the earliest sort of tool maker, and today, okay, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, we are basically starting to debate that. It could be your afarensis, it could be Lucy, it could be your Kenyanthropus platyopus, it could be your Australopithecus guddi, okay, it could be, I don't know, somebody would come out something and say, okay, it could be your Paranthropus boisei or something like this. You understand, right? Okay, so always remember, anthropology when you're writing your answers, it becomes a lot more sort of important to say that we know what we know, okay, but there are multiple kind of stories that could be possible. You understand that, right? Okay, so yahan pe this, when you're doing this, when you're structuring and presenting, okay, so you're not presenting like it is a matter of fact, okay, that it is all kind of accepted, and even if it is, okay, you try to provide that, what could be the alternate hypothesis, right? So that is one other aspect. Again, we'll build that, okay. So again, for all this, aapko kya chahiye, right? If you just study it as in, so this is Homo habilis and this is so and this is kind of this thing, so you will not be able to bring in these kind of angles. Okay, aapka conceptual clarity, you have to do what it takes for you to be able to bring all of these things into your answer to be able to show it. Your responsibility. Okay, within those constraints of 150 words, 250 words, 350 words, 7, 14, 11 minutes, how many ever it is, but you've got to do. Interlinking, yes, interlinking is important. I will tell you how to do it. Actually, interlinking paper 1 and paper 2 is not necessarily that difficult. Okay, at least in in some aspects. See, for instance, if I just basically go back here, okay, so interlinking per se alone is not going to get you the marks. Again, you have to find a way to sort of contextualize it to the demand of the question. You have to make it relevant to that particular question. But let's say I'm going to give you a question that is a little more of, let's say, impact of globalization, okay, on villages or tribal identities or something like this, right? So if we have in paper 1, you have this topic, globalization's impact on indigenous societies, okay, indigenous communities, right? So in case it is about tribal societies, is there a way to sort of like break this down, okay, that globalization affects certain groups differently and certain other groups differently, right? For instance, can you also link it to your Robert Redfield, okay, and bring in this concept that people who are of the greater sort of tradition have been impacted slightly differently in comparison to some other kind of traditions, okay, that we can call as little traditions, right? Can you bring this? Okay, and if I do this and if I sort of like analyze it in this particular manner, what am I doing? Okay, I am basically taking paper 1 ka core, which is essentially your culture change ka theories, your globalization ka, all that, but I'm also basically trying to link it to certain other topics, certain core topics of your paper 2, okay, which is essentially the way to analyze a particular society. Okay, great traditions and little traditions. Then you can add some fieldwork examples and show what has happened where and how it basically affected them, and if it is basically your if it's basically your tribe, again go with your 5F kind of principles, right? So and so on. Okay, forest and their faith and their food and their family and and what am I missing? Festivals, right? So these kind of things you can basically analyze. You will be able to, don't worry, okay? So the way we basically do this, you will be able to blend in paper 1 and paper 2 seamlessly, okay, and integrated, enriched, and so on and so forth. Okay, but my demand, okay, my request, okay, is that you basically show up for every one of those fixed section tests. You will never feel prepared for any of these. Promise karta hu main. I know this. Okay, it's going to be the same every year. Okay, your 7th and 8th, they're going to say that this is the worst day of my life. Okay, why is 7th and 8th? Okay, 7th and 8th is the date of July 19th, I believe, right? So that is going to be your FLT1 and FLT2, where you have to basically remember all of these things and bring in all of these things and be able to write for 7 minutes on biological anthro, and then the next 7 minutes basically you write on archaeological anthro. So you will understand that that is okay, but that is fine. Okay, as long as the worst days are basically not your August 22nd ke baad, okay, you are in very, very good position. FLTs, so this is basically one thing that I'm going to have. In sectionals, I do not intend to give you choices. Okay, if I give you that particular question, you cannot avoid that particular question. आपको उसके बारे में लिखना पड़ेगा. Right? So essentially, in FNTs, you will have 8 questions, जहाँ पे 1 and 5 are compulsory, like मतलब UPSC type. Right? I've had students. The reason is there's a sound reasoning here. There are students who always write on topics that they are well aware of. Right? So let's say they have basically written an answer to, let's say, socio-cultural hai, and let's say the same topic, let's say globalization, and they have basically tried to skip religion. Okay, and if they come to FLT, because they have written it once before, they tend to choose the same particular topic or same particular kind of theme that they would choose it. And they would basically try to not write on those topics that they have not written. Actual exam mein aayega. So in the sectionals, I don't want you to have much flexibility. Okay, if there is a question in front of you on social cultural anthro, try to analyze it to the best of your ability. Okay, पढ़ के आओ, okay, to whatever extent, okay, the questions are going to be a little more analytical, ठीक है, it's okay, you try to sort of analyze it to the best of your ability, लिखो, okay, but from your FLTs, I'm going to give you the real perspective, okay, how does it really feel to choose which questions that you want to do, okay, and I'm tell you this, choices don't matter so much, okay, I'll tell you why exactly, because it's not going to be that, you're going to select which modules that you're really good at, okay, more on that later, okay, sections, no choice, and why is something that I have handled. Thoda I'll just take a break. 1 second. Yeah. How to enrich answers with case studies in social cultural anthro? Yes, good question, Ramakrishna. Okay. How to make one paper notes for final revision? Okay. Okay. In what type of questions we need to put thinkers necessarily? Okay. So that's an interesting question. See, ye wala question, I'll just handle this really. Okay. See, what type of questions nahi? So anthropology, when you're writing master's level paper, it's very different from your GS ka paper. Okay, so this I will explain a little more in detail. I think most of you would know this, okay? But in case you don't, I'll try to sort of like summarize this in 2-3 minutes. You have GS and you have optional. If you can tell me the difference between these two, okay? Now the chat window, matlab likho chat window mein, I'm a little far away, but still. See, first thing, of course, what is it? Okay, you have 4 papers, you have trivial examples liye bata raha hu. Okay, so if you take a look at it in this particular manner, GS is essentially school level. Okay, so school level as in like what do I mean by that? अगर आपको geography पढ़ना है तो what are the kind of books that you would go to? Okay, 6th to 12th. Okay, primarily 11th and 12th आप करोगे. अगर आपको history करना है, what do? You basically study your your ancient medieval क्या करोगे? Like mostly like school level books. Okay, whether it is your Tamil Nadu book, your new NCERT, your old NCERT, class 7, class 11, class 12. Okay, optional is master's level. ठीक है? Second point. This is equivalent to board exams, and this is equivalent to I don't know. It's kind of like, let's say if you have written any sort of entrance exams. Okay, why so? GS में score करना is basically like if you have studied your part. Okay, कि what is happening constitutionally, okay, what is happening in the political world, okay, what is happening in international relations, governance में क्या हो रहा है, and you've basically studied them, okay, and if they give you 20 of those questions and you're able to handle them with depending upon the number of questions and number of points आपने लिख लिया, okay, 8 to 12 questions you've been able to handle well, 4 questions you've been able to handle reasonably, okay, यहाँ वहाँ से recruit करके, और 4 question ऐसे होंगे जहाँ पे आपको like pray to God करना है, कुछ think करना है, कुछ लिखना है. Okay, ये होगा अभी generally. Okay, if it is easier then थोड़ा सा इस way, if it's harder then थोड़ा सा this kind of direction, but generally this is the thing. अगर आपने ये for every particular question you have handled it with a certain number of points, certain relevant वाला this thing, आपको मिलेगा ये score, and it does not depend on how your classmate has done, okay, how your center has done, how nationally it has done. You handle it, आपको marks मिलेंगे. School में क्या था, right? It didn't matter कि who's first, who's second. If you have done your part, okay, you don't have to worry about how the others have done. Optional is a paper that is different, जहाँ पे it's the top 1 percentile high scores. Okay, top 5 percentile as in the top 5%. Okay, so they have actually beaten, let's say, 95% of them. Okay, decent scores. Okay, 99%, not the greatest of scores. Okay, 95%, not the kind of scores with which you will basically get into service. Yes, you might be able to clear cutoff, or you might be able to clear cutoff if there is some sort of reservation, or you might clear the cutoff and not get a huge sort of like buffer. Okay, you need 70 marks more if you want to get IAS, right? So this is not going to, 5%, like top 5% I would basically get it. इसके नीचे अगर आप जाओगे, most of the scores are like 220, 100, 110, 120, 122, okay, 102. Right, इस टाइप का ही आएगा, and some of them basically even further. So यहाँ पे क्या होना है is basically you have to have a paper that is essentially something that the evaluator will be able to say this is like top 1%, highest ranked paper. Okay, so it really depends on your competition this year, whether how great they are. Okay, and however they are, whether it is 1,200 people, 1,500 people, 2,000 people, you've got to be in the top 1% if you want the highest scores. And this is basically what we are going to target. The other students basically did it. You can too do it. Now, if I say this, agar aapko top 1% banna hai, and let's say 2,000 people are writing this exam, that is only 20 people who are going to get that kind of score. Okay, if it's 1,200, again, do the math. Okay, it's going to be only 12 people who are going to score this kind of score. Now, if you want to write a paper at a master's level, okay, you want to be writing an answer that is very different from your GS answer writing style. Okay, so every answer jahan pe aap likh rahe ho, okay, it has to be sort of enriched with, scholarly views. Okay, now what do I mean by this? So let's say there is a question on, let's say, criticisms of, let's say, symbolic anthropology or symbolic and interpretive theories in anthropology. Okay, so the question, you have to convert it in your mind explicitly to scholarly perspectives, scholarly thoughts on scholarly sort of criticisms on, symbolic and interpretive anthropology. Now, this is again true for anything. अगर आप संस्कृताइजेशन के बारे में लिख रहे हो कि the influence of, let's say, different sort of religions on indigenous societies or tribal societies. It's again, what have scholars basically studied and noticed, right? It is not basically what you have realized, based on your interactions in your small, you guys are all young and kiddos, right? In your little experience, what you have done, okay, those will be good anecdotes, but those are not from where you basically write an answer, because you have to generalize that. You get the picture, right? So all answers are essentially up starting में लिख लो to that question. You have to precede it with, anthropological perspectives on that particular topic. Is that kind of clear? So that's a very good question. I hope that this answered, because even I have not addressed that in my this one. Okay, I have. Will laws have PYQs? See, laws are primarily for PYQs, but I don't want to keep it all PYQs. I also want to give you questions that are a little more analytical. जहाँ पे you have not seen them. Okay, see, there are two ways to do this. If you're good at a particular syllabus, I think you will be relatively good at answering any question that arises from it. But if you're going to say that for chapter number whatever chapter, okay, ठीक है, मान लो 1.6 या 1.5, okay, if you say कि these are the questions that have been asked, so these are the questions that I'm going to study, okay, उसको घुमा फिरा के पूछेंगे या उसी में analytical question पूछेंगे, which they have not done in the past, it will be very difficult for you to go and handle it in that exam. So my suggestion, be thorough with the syllabus. Anything is game, okay, fair game in this, whatever is there in your syllabus. You understand it, right? So I don't want you to think that only these questions हम practice करेंगे, okay, and then you go into that exam and अगर वो नहीं देखोगे या उसी में से अगर if they basically tweak it in a manner, okay, which requires some more analysis, and you're not able to do it because that entire concept was not thorough. अगर आपका concept thorough है, okay, any question from that, whether it is PYQ, non-PYQ, easy तो everybody can do it, okay, but analytical है तो भी आप करोगे because it is मतलब conceptually आप strong. You get the picture, right? How to get a hold of answer writing? What does that mean? Get a hold of answer writing as in how to get experience. Okay, so you have to basically start. Okay, and जब लिखोगे, so again, this is good question. I'm hoping that I'm understanding this question right. ठीक है? What do I do here? Come back here. Okay, see, always remember this. Okay, if you're first main student, okay, great, because you will have the kind of enthusiasm that is difficult to beat. Okay, if you're a little more experienced in mains, आपको पता है. Okay, the first time you write an answer, trust me, your first answer is going to be bad. Next answer is going to be below average. Okay, then again you continue writing. Eventually, you're going to get your answers promoted to the next level. What is that level? It's going to be great. You finally reach the average. Okay, और लिखोगे above average. Okay, उसके बाद क्या होगा? Then you basically get to maybe some good answers once in a while. Okay, and eventually, you have to get here. So always remember, when you start writing, okay, don't judge here, don't judge here, don't judge here, don't judge here. Stick to the process. Okay, stick to the process. If you write मतलब 5 दिन के लिए आप लिख रहे हो, and then suddenly the 6 days like, why are these answers not the best answers? Right, best answers होने के लिए you have to consistently write for, मतलब in my opinion, you have to write for at least 4 months. Okay, but we don't have 4 months, we have 3 months. Okay, and so 3 months में थोड़ा सा extra volume आप भी कर लो outside of the session Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I don't want to take too much of your time, but Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday also आप लिखो. Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday आप लिखो. Saturday को anyways you're writing that particular test. If you do that, you will get enough volume that can be for 4 months को आप 3 महीने में आप आपको करना है, right? So you basically do this, but don't keep judging every once in a while here, okay? मतलब you give yourself time. It takes time. You have to be patient, right? So with time you basically improve in that. When and how do we make short notes in the course of this mains preparation? So whatever you have to do for every let's say कि आपको Monday, Wednesday, Friday आपको पढ़ना है, and if you feel like जनरली आई टेल दिस टू स्टूडेंट्स, ओके, आपको लगेगा कि आई हैव टू मेक शॉर्ट नोट्स फॉर दिस एंटायर थिंग, अगर आप मेंस अभी लिख रहे हो, ओके, आई वुड से कि नॉट दैट इंपॉर्टेंट अंटिल यू बेसिकली गो टू एफएलटीज, ओके, बाय द टाइम यू गो टू एफएलटीज यू विल अंडरस्टैंड कि आपको याद क्या है, याद क्या नहीं आ रहा है, ओके, व्हाट रिक्वायर्स मोर, हाउ डू यू वांट टू बेसिकली ऑर्गेनाइज इट बेस्ड ऑन योर आंसर राइटिंग स्टाइल, ओके, वी कैन डू दैट, मतलब आई टेल यू कि आई टेल यू अ गुड मेथड दैट यू कैन डू, ओके, एंड देन वील आल्सो सी कि व्हाट इज योर आंसर स्टाइल, आंसर राइटिंग स्टाइल, एंड हाउ डू यू बेसिकली ऑर्गेनाइज इट, थोड़ा सा अगर ट्वीक करना है तो हम कर सकते हैं, बट when you write your Saturday test for the 6th test, आपको ये करना है is that you prepare one A4 sheet या 2 A4 sheet, that's it, okay, that's it, of things that you feel कि this is my cheat sheet, समझ रहे हो? If I say कि cheat sheet is allowed to be taken into the exam, don't take it, ठीक है, but over Monday and Wednesday and Friday you make those cheat sheets जहाँ पे you have your thinkers, you have your scholars, you have, I don't think I have the example here, I don't know if I have a sample here, I just closed another PDF जहाँ पे I have some samples, but that's fine, ठीक है, I'll go through this. Monday, Wednesday, Friday को if you do it, like in 2 A4 sheets में micro sheets you can basically take into the exam. मान लो, like if in case you're taking to the exam, what are the things that you need, right? So let's say you're going to take the exam at 9 o'clock, 7:30 to 8:30 को आप वो cram करने के लिए रख लो, okay? Don't go through the entire set of notes because it will be very difficult for you to do. इतना आप रखोगे ना, the facts जो आपको चाहिए होते हैं, the things that you tend to forget more, okay, those you can do it more times than just the entire set of notes. I hope this is kind of clear, right? So some things will basically require, अगर notes के लिए आपको 2 बार करना है, तो this will basically require you 5 times या 10 times. So उसको आप you make it separately and you can use these facts and sort of sprinkle it in wherever you need it. So ये आपको करना है, but other kind of notes मैं बताता हूँ, we will basically handle it after your 6th test. So just one thing, just try to stick to the schedule so that I can speak to all of you like an entire group. Right, if one person is in this one and one person is in that particular test, it becomes difficult for me to suggest a general sort of advice, okay? But anyway, I'm going to assume that you're writing on that day, okay? So that my advice is going to be for those people who stick to this particular schedule. जब आप वहाँ पे पहुँचोगे, in case you're a little late, then you can basically take a look at that. Is this program only for 2025 main students? No, it is not, okay? So ideally, the mains 2025 students should ideally be prepared, right? Okay, because you have only 3 months. So the students who have basically written the mains last year are going to definitely have a little bit of an advantage, at least in the beginning, right? And in case they take it a little too light, okay, even the first timers are going to be able to compete with the old timers, right? So in fact, one of the students I basically showed you, she was in her very first attempt, okay? The other student, I'm not sure which mains it was for her, but at least with me it was the very first mains, and we changed a lot of we worked on a lot of things. It was almost like a new paper for her, and even the scores basically went up by the same huge margin kind of thing, right? So that would be that. So even first timers can do it, but ideally what you want to do is that you want to make your second, your mains 2025 या जब भी आप mains लिखोगे, if you have a chance, you try to go through one actual simulation of mains. I'm saying if you have not written mains before, at least एक 3 महीने के लिए you try to write it like you're writing mains. GS भी करो, mains भी करो, optional भी करो, and just go through that experience and you will realize कि feeling क्या है, how quick do I have to be, okay, can I be perfect, वो real feel आता है, okay? So how do I sort of like manage within that particular time, how much short notes I need, okay? मतलब ये सब आप पे एक realistic idea जो मिल जाता है, and the next time when you write mains ना, procedurally आप mistakes कुछ नहीं करोगे, you understand, ठीक है? And you will feel a lot more at ease. So for those of you who are not writing it, in 2025, it is fine. You have a little bit of an advantage, okay? But try to go through it like it is an actual mains, just to get a feel for what mains is like. First mains में करना, I mean, it takes some effort, right? So you try to ensure that this is like your second mains, okay, that you're experienced. I have an issue with answer writing. Hope laws will help me overcome the inertia of answer. See, laws will not help you get through the inertia of writing, okay? You will have to do that, right? Because you can see a particular question and यहाँ पे भी आपको block हो सकता है. It's called a writer's block. Okay, so in case you feel like you have some trouble, write 2-3 bad answers before you come to the session. ठीक है, you write 2-3 bad answers, okay, and then when you come here, at least कि मतलब वो fear चला गया, ठीक है, at least I can write this, okay, and then you try, come here, experiment, listen, right? Because otherwise when you come here and then you write a particular answer, you're not happy with it, and then you suddenly see this one, and then you feel मतलब वो level of rejection will be at a higher degree. You get it, right? So in case you have that inertia, write 2 to 3 bad answers and then come to that section. I feel like you will be a lot more warmed up to write slightly better answers, or at least answers that you will be reasonably satisfied with. Hope this helps. Okay, but if you write it consistently after that, okay, habit chodo mat. Okay, so you ensure that it remains a habit. See, previously what used to happen is that a lot of students had certain areas, and this is something that I want you to basically get out of your system. I'm going to do really well, and I'm going to prepare certain parts itna अच्छे से. Okay, I'm going to sort of like maximize my score in that particular section. For most students, it is biology, because biology is easy to score. Okay, biology is kind of simple also, right? So it is very easy for you to sort of kind of finish the syllabus and do that. But if you take a look at this, always remember, guys, you're going to be writing mains. Okay, mains is moving in a different direction. The paper is moving in a different direction. What are these? Okay, so historical particularism. Okay, कौन सा module है? Okay, it is your theories wala module, theories and miscellaneous wala module. What do you see in your B? I hope you're able to see the questions. Am I blocking it? Yes, I am. Okay, so describe the evidence of food production, domestication, animals, mehergut. What is this question? This question is basically archaeology and fossils wala module. What do you see here? Lifestyle diseases chapter, your epidemiology and your biological anthro. Next one. Okay, so what do you see here? Chromosomal aberrations. Okay, biological anthropology, urbanization and impact on family, social-cultural anthro. Okay, this is your fieldwork method. Okay, which is basically again your theories and research methods. That wala module. This is your question number second wala question in your choice wala question. Okay, in your last year ka paper. Look at this here. Okay, a lot of things. So basically, the direction in the UPSC is going is that you cannot say section A is going to be my social-cultural anthropology. Okay, section B is going to be my biological anthropology. I am good at social-cultural anthropology, so I'm going to choose most of my questions from section A, jahan pe all my questions are going to be from that same module. Okay, or I'm really comfortable with biological anthro, so I'm going to go directly to my section B, choose good number of questions there, and all dono blocks say 3 questions, 6 questions. 6 matlab 100 marks are going to be from biological anthropology, plus your 10 markers are also going to be, so 150 marks I'm going to do from biological anthropology, and then I'm going to score really well. Okay, so that is not going to be something that you are going to be, if you go by the current sort of trends, you have to understand this, and most people have still not understood this. Right, look at this. What do you have here? Theories wala module. Okay, so Ruth Benedict. What do you have here? Acheulean and older one traditions, Facultative traditions, and your hand axe cleaver traditions. Right, so then you have your genetic counseling, all different kind of modules, archaeology and fossils, and you have your biological anthro. So are you going to have a question jahan pe you can basically focus and specialize in one particular area? No, it is not going to be possible, and this is something that you have to get sort of like become cognizant of, so that you will develop a certain degree. Okay, at least you are at above average level in each and every module. You cannot choose questions, okay, in any of these things if you are having trouble with any particular module. Right, you can't be at a great level. ठीक है, एक दो module तो let's say you are great, okay, but बाकी सब में आपको एक good level तक आपको पहुंचना ही है. Right, so this is something, if you do, actually a lot of students who have done well in 2020, 21, 22, when they wrote in 23 and 24, they have not performed to that level percentile. Maybe they were in the top 1 percentile, 5 percentile, 10 percentile, but they're not in those kind of percentiles in recent years, primarily because us samay the paper used to be like rewarding those people who are good at a particular module, and if they play it smart, they could choose that particular module, a good chunk of questions from that particular module. They're not able to do it now. Okay, so they may be still good in certain kind of modules, but that is not the way the exam works anymore. Homo erectus, archaeology and fossils, forensic anthropology, chapter 12, biological anthro, and then Levi Strauss, that is your this one. So you get it, right? So question number, like, you don't have a question, it is from the same module. You just don't have it. Postmodernism, multifactorial trait, polygenic and environmental sort of influences on certain kind of features, certain kind of traits. Okay, applicability of various research methods, theories, and miscellaneous wala module. So did you get it? Like, I hope, and I'm not going to go through your paper too, but this is the idea here. Right, so you don't get to choose a particular question from one particular module. So in case you have to choose one particular question, again you have to go through social cultural anthropology, biological anthropology, and the primate, archaeofossils wala module. So this is how basically exam is moving towards. So you get it, right? So in case you're going to choose, remember, you have to choose 3 of those questions, and in those 3 of those questions you're basically going to be writing on all of them. Right, so that selective greatness, if you can reach, probably that is not going to give you the greatness in the score. Right, so you have to be at a particular threshold, a good level in all, okay, and maybe great in maybe a couple of modules. So this is something that I want you to keep in mind. Conceptual understanding is something that I've told you. So I had some questions, okay? But we will go through these questions in a little more in another session where you can go through. Okay, I'll just take a look at the last set of questions. Is there a section that we must avoid? No, there is no section that you should avoid. Okay, so it really depends. So ideally, if there's a question about avoiding, so let's say you have a question where you know one question, you know another question, but the third question you don't know anything about. Okay, those are kind of questions that you want to sort of avoid. Right, so that is something that you could basically do if you want to avoid that. Ensure that at least you have above average or average knowledge in all three questions, and then I think it's a good question to basically handle. So don't be so married to any particular module, yahan pe karna hai, wahan pe karna hai, and all of them are very scoring provided, and especially analytical questions are very scoring. But you will have these questions, मतलब 20-30% questions will be questions that they throw कि दो easy question देंगे, बहुत easy question देंगे. Okay, you've studied it so well and मतलब that's your favorite questions, मान लो. Okay, तीसरा वाला question होगा 10 mark 20 mark होगा, and it's not something that you'll be able to handle. There are a lot of those things as well, right? So that is sometime you want to avoid those kind of questions, right? So that is basic principle regarding that. How are we going to proceed with the schedule? Okay, like syllabus of today will be covered today, and tomorrow and day after today we shall be writing them live. So this यहाँ पे एक orientation है. Okay, so this is basically the orientation, and this week I will try to make it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday after discussing with management से देखता हूँ कि if I can still get those 3 days, but 3 days would be ideal before you basically write on Saturday, but उतना gap नहीं मिलेगा, right? So that is the only thing. GS is more general, whereas optional subject we need to delve deep into the subject. Yes, exactly. Okay, so that's perfect point, because it is going to be at a master's level wala paper. Will loss of PYQs? Yeah, I think I've handled this. Yeah. How to handle those questions which are a bouncer? Okay, so those are good questions. What is the basic answer writing style? How do you precisely and not be descriptive and consume more words on vague and wider answers? Okay. How to contact sir? If possible, could you please share my number? I think I will just find out कि मतलब ये कैसे करना है, but I will ensure that it is easy to reach me. Okay, but I'll just talk to them कि उनका like, see, this is my first time here, so like I just want to know कि मतलब वो करते कैसे हैं. I think it is and this मतलब I'll just check and come back to you, ठीक है? And then we'll ensure that it is a seamless way for you to sort of reach when you need it. See, this question about how to handle questions that are a bouncer. In fact, I had a student who attempted this one question. Let's see if I have this question. Okay. See, अगर आप यूपीएससी के क्वेश्चंस निकालोगे, okay, ऑप्शनल के, and all options are basically becoming a little more analytical. Okay, all your liberal arts papers are becoming a little more analytical. जहाँ पे it becomes easier to sort of separate the people who have good conceptual knowledge. Okay, 30-35 papers में they are basically better than the other students. And it becomes a lot easier. Okay, but अगर very easy paper आ जाता है, तो it becomes very difficult to sort of differentiate. Okay, can I definitely say that I'll be the top 1%? Okay, if the question is cultural relativism and it is only 150 marks, can I definitely say that nobody else can beat me within those 150 marks? Nahi, it could be that most of us are basically in the same band, but if the question is a little more analytical, या थोड़ा सा long question at least अगर है, तो then I can basically put in things जहाँ पे I can show that I know that answer a little better than the others, right? ये तो है. So this is basically so यहाँ पे क्वेश्चंस होंगे इजी टाइप के क्वेश्चन होंगे, यहाँ पे होंगे मॉडरेट टाइप के क्वेश्चन होंगे, देयर विल बी डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चंस या एनालिटिकल क्वेश्चंस, डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चंस. Okay, they're slightly different. Okay, then you have the bouncers. You understand? Easy, moderate, difficult. Yeah, difficult, analytical. So easy, moderate, analytical, and then you have bouncers. So bouncer could be something जहाँ पे you don't know head or tail of that particular question. Okay, it's fine. Okay, if it's a 10 marker, you have to attempt it to the best of your ability. Okay, and then if you're if it is a question that you don't know anything at all, but it's a long answer question, what do? You basically try to avoid that particular question, because if you don't hit the nail on its head, right? If you have not understood and you're basically gone slightly tangential, yeah, matlab you completely opposite chale gaye ho, okay, the chances of you scoring in that particular question is like almost minimal. So I had this particular question wherein I had, and generally ऐसा ही होता है, most of the students don't choose questions. Okay, वो extreme questions पे जाते ही नहीं है. Most people don't. In fact, like of all the questions, all the students that I know, there is only one particular student, मेरे classroom का student, who basically had attempted this particular question. Okay, and that student is probably watching it live right now. Okay, so in fact, see, he's a student, I think he's the one who basically attempted it. He was a student who basically took the foundation course and the test series of anthropology. Okay, matlab he's starting after prelims. right? And despite starting after prelims, he basically managed to get a very decent score. Paper 1, he could not complete the paper. Paper 2, around 145, okay, which is one of the highest in the country in 2.5 months. ठीक है, मतलब clarity अगर है तो students कर सकते हैं. So he was the only one, okay, who basically attempted this particular question, and I asked him why. So he's like, sir, we know this because we have discussed myths क्या होते हैं, and the second part of the question is relatively on the easier end, okay, and we know enough to be able to sort of like work on this, so let's do it बोल के मैंने कर लिया, sir. But that's only 100 ways. Like I know only one student who has basically attempted this particular question. Now for him, he knows enough, and he has a lot of these stories from the sessions that we have talked about that he could basically bring to analyze different kind of myths, okay, in a structural perspective using those binary oppositions. Okay, and how do you sort of find that, you basically link it to that. So he had this thing, but most of the questions will not attempt it. So agar the question is a bouncer, and by bouncer you mean that you don't know those particular questions, unless it's a 10 marker, you don't have to touch it, right? If it is a 10 marker, try to do the best of your ability. We'll discuss some strategies for it and so on. But ऐसा होता नहीं है कि मतलब you will know all the questions. In fact, rank number 9. Okay, so yesterday we were basically discussing, and he had मतलब बहुत सारे, like paper 1, he really struggled to complete the paper. He has मतलब rank 9. You get it, right? So we might think that it is a perfect paper, right? But paper 1 में he basically struggled to complete. And he's very fast. But to write and craft analytical, good quality sort of answers takes time. Paper 2 mein he's like, I was very strict with the time, so I basically tried to complete it. Is basically, a lot of people basically had this issue. Paper 1 mein, many students I've noticed that, paper 1 mein they could not complete the paper. Okay, so I talked to him, and then he told me that paper 1 mein I could not complete the paper in a satisfactory manner. Paper 2 mein I did not know so and so kind of answer. Buffer zone he did not know. And in fact, for there is a particular question, a buffer zone mein I think he had a reasonable sort of idea कि मतलब है क्या. We have basically discussed some topics, okay, regarding, I don't think it is here. Okay, so what could be it? Okay, so I think he had written something relevant. Yeah, I forget this particular question, so I don't want to comment on this. I don't remember who had written something relevant, but हम chapter 4 में इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा we basically touch upon, like the bridge communities, the buffer kind of zones, okay, proto-nationalism, infra-nationalism, post-primitive nature. Some कुछ ideas हैं, but can you do it? But there were other questions that he did not know. For instance, ILO conventions में exact numbers, या उसका exact, like which one is which, that level of clarity. Okay, so but he has been able to address those questions in a reasonable manner. But there was this one question जहाँ पे he wrote a complete wrong answer, which is, I think there was a question about Syrian Catholics, या Syrio Malabar something. Okay, Kerala Christians. Okay, so he basically wrote about the different kind of Christians, from what we had discussed. So he had basically written the opposite. So मतलब पूरा answer wrong है, right? But that still gives him, you can still be IAS, you can still be a single digit IAS officer, with these kind of things. So eventually you will come to a point जहाँ पे you will understand that you're not going to have a paper जहाँ पे every one of your answer is great, right? So if you have students, and if you basically have some seniors and you speak to them, they'll basically say कि अगर मेरे like if I knew that this one question and this one question and this one question, I would have done better. नहीं, actually ऐसा होता नहीं है, right? The last 10 pages of your paper is kind of same for everybody. Last 10 मतलब कि not last 10, okay, मतलब 10 page will be difficult for all. Okay, so 10 to 15 pages are basically going to be difficult for all. यहाँ पे difference of marks उतने आते नहीं है. Let's say कि there is a student who has basically scored 150-ish, 145, 47, बहुत सारे बात कर रहे हैं, 150, and there is a student who has basically scored 80 or 100. Okay, so that's basically 100, 120, बहुत सारे marks आ रहे हैं, right? So this cannot be based on, मतलब वो last 10 pages. Last 10 pages में है ही मतलब 50 marks के. So where is the difference basically coming from? Those difference are basically coming from the 35 marks, 35 pages. Yeah, it's basically coming from the first 40 pages. जहाँ पे you know those answers and you're competing with the answers that you know. You understand, right? So the students who are very good and who are, who have practiced a lot of writing, okay, they will be able to deliver in a manner जहाँ पे in every 10 marker they'll be able to get, well, they're making a strong claim for extra 1 mark. In 15 marker they'll be able to get some 2 marks extra. If it's a 20 marker, possibly even 3 marks extra. In question that आपको जो पता है, right? So there'll be a student who's writing on cultural relativism and ethnocentrism. A student writing it here, they're not going to get the same marks. But even in those questions, you have to find a way to basically get those extra marks. In all the questions, easy and moderate. Difficult questions जो होंगे ना, that is not the main sort of decider. So for instance, यहाँ पे most of the students will basically score, मतलब एक का 2.5 आएगा, एक का 3 आएगा, एक का 3 आएगा तो एक का 2 आएगा. You understand, right? So that is going to be not much of a difference in these sort of areas as well. So आपको, if you want to go big in terms of score, कहाँ पे? You've got to focus on, there are 3 kinds of questions, right? Easy, moderate, okay, analytical also you can do it, okay, but not in the bouncers. Bouncers are going to be not much of a difference maker. Okay, but यहाँ पे easy, moderate, the doable questions पे are you able to consistently beat students? Okay, your competition, with 1 mark extra, 2 mark extra, 3 mark extra. That, my dear friends, is something that is going to differentiate and get you that 150-ish kind of score. Right? Cool? Okay. So I don't think I have any more questions lined up. Let me just check once again. Okay, so I have one more question. When will we do for 2.1 to 2.3? So this week is going to be a little bit of a different wala thing. So I'll see how to sort of update it. My suggestion that I'm going to offer is going to be like Wednesday and Thursday and Friday we'll have a session jahan pe, fatafat we can handle all of those topics in that same thing. But agar if that's not going to be possible and I don't get those dates, okay, so that means that we'll slightly split it into, instead of 33%, 33%, 33%, we're going to make it 50% and 50%. Okay, but first preference to sort of just making it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So yes, hafte ke liye thoda sa just be a little flexible. So that is my suggestion. Does that help? See, tech related aspects, if you've asked that question, मुझे पता नहीं है, we'll just follow like how they do it. So process को follow कर लेंगे. I'm not very उस type का person. You tell me like what is the portal? I've actually not yet logged into the portal, right? So I don't know how exactly it'll look. Okay, but I will try to deliver, using the best use of technology. Okay, I'll try to get a little more sort of comfortable and then be able to provide. But see, technology can be an enabler. That's what we say, right? So we'll try to use it to, for our benefit. How to make one-pager notes for final revision? I think I handled it to some extent, but I will also bring in the next session, probably I'll just give you an example of how to make that. Right? Yeah, I don't have that PDF open, so I cannot give you an example. But for the first 6 tests, what you want to do is that you want to give it like, just 2 pages of not the entire set of notes. It's very difficult to do. Okay, but अगर मुझे live answer writing में जाके लिखना है, 2 पेज का cheat sheet मुझे चाहिए. Okay, I'll just make that. And eventually you'll basically have just like 2 pages ke bahut sare, it'll be this. But with that, you will have enough content to be able to write on most of these answers, okay, through frequent revision and things like that. So that would be your main thing. And after you're done with your 6 tests, I'll tell you a little more in detail. Now you have a lot of valuation, you have a lot of scholars, you have a lot of hypotheses that you want to sort of incorporate into your answer, right? So उसको हम कैसे करेंगे, we'll sort of like split it syllabus by syllabus, and I'll tell you a particular format that works best. वो हम करेंगे. But right now के लिए the first 6 days, first 6 weeks, what is your target? Your target is very simple. It is to sort of complete your syllabus, okay, to the best of your ability. Sometimes you'll be able to do 50%, 60%, 70%, 80%, doesn't matter, but come right. Okay, by the time it is Saturday, you're going to be able to complete maybe 80%, okay, 75%, it's fine. Okay, get that 3 hours out of the way. Do not have a backlog. Okay, one thing that I've consistently seen in all of these people, despite different writing styles, different study times, different strengths, okay, different personalities, okay, sab kuch, but one thing that I've noticed in all of them is that they are all consistent. Okay, what timetable mein they are basically sort of like very, they stand true to it. Okay, so that is one thing that I would basically say that could make a huge difference. Okay, so it is not the perfect answer. Perfect answer ke liye wait mat karo, because your first answer paper is not going to make much of a difference. Okay, but first answers, first test, first sectional test, if you get it out of the way, then your FLTs may improvement dikhenge. Okay, 1 and 2 is going to be a little harder, but then the next one you're going to get better, and the next one you're going to get better. Right? So this is basically the attitude. So your quality of your paper is not going to be that agar main for all you techies, it should not be ki aisa hai, and then suddenly you have your first date. I think that is going to be your Saturday. Okay, suddenly aapka test ka quality yahan pe aa gaya, and then you're able to maintain it throughout. Aisa nahi hone wala hai. What is going to be an ideal sort of a thing? Okay, so I'm assuming it is going to be, let's say ki your quality is going to be essay. Okay, and then I want it to be like this, and then like this, and then one day you will realize that paper is not your strength. Okay, maybe you have been able to do only 60%. Okay, okay, that is fine, but keep track of this wala. Okay, then again essay, and then again essay, and again essay, right? So you're basically improving over a period of time. ऐसा ही होगा. Okay, यहाँ पे आप पकड़ोगे ना कि I'm going to ये वाला मेरा यहाँ पे होना चाहिए, right? Okay, the second you plan like this, ये पूरा this thing will basically go off track. Okay, this will not happen. Okay, every paper ko aisa, it basically comes with a lot of experience. Right? The more answers you write, the better it's going to get. So aisa hoga, and then your FLT1 and FLT2 aisa hi honge. Okay, so be prepared for that also, and then eventually again it will come like this, and it will go like this, and aisa aayega, and your final exam hopefully should be essay, isme se how you deliver on that particular day. Okay, how you basically how you use the next 2 to 3 weeks from the last test all the way till your anthropology exam. right? क्या होता है, some people basically take a huge break, for GS, okay? It will go down, I promise, right? Some students basically, they skip the last test. Again, it basically goes down. So you have to maintain that thing, right? मैं बताता हूँ by the time you get here on what are the ways in which at least आपको maintain करना है ये 11 को, right? So if you do that, then that is great, okay? And some of you might even be able to sort of over deliver better than your last set of FLTs. Okay, but this is not the only writing that you have to do. मतलब आपको अपने आप से भी करना है. Okay, the more the writing volume, naturally you're going to get a lot better. Go to a channel, you will see the toppers, unka experience kya tha for the 3 months and all of that. You'll also get an idea how you should sort of plan that. Okay, how long the sessions will be? Keep it as 1.5 hours, 2 hours. Okay, so because the number of questions that you write, us din ke liye if you have 5 questions, add it and uska maybe keep half an hour, 45 minutes extra. Okay, so that you learn something from the session and go. ठीक है, मतलब 2 hours पकड़ लो, okay, and then we will try to do it. Okay, if there are some topics जहाँ पे feel like you guys need a little more, then I might stretch it. But the class में ही आप पढ़ोगे, ठीक है? 2.1 and 2.2, can it be done tomorrow? मैं देखता हूँ. Okay, so that is something. So like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, is it? So I'm open to it. I'm not an issue. Like it's not an issue, but I just need like 3 days. Okay, sir, I'll make notes on PYQ method and cover all syllabus topic. Is this enough? I feel a little FOMO. FOMO about what? When will we get notes for enrichment and when will it be uploaded? So, okay, so uploading, so this is also something that I will do slightly differently. I will basically give you the questions beforehand, but please don't say it. Okay, I've been, what I want to do is that I don't want to give the answers right away. Okay, because what you're going to do is that you will write it, and if I put the timer and give you even like 1 minute extra, like most people are not going to be able to write quality answer, right? And उसके बाद immediately don't see the answer. ठीक है, after the session you have learned some more things, उसको implement करके थोड़ा सा extra time लेके अब लिख लो. Okay, the next day I'll basically upload, some decent answers. But यहाँ पे I'll show you answers written by students to the question that I provided to them under the same sort of constraints. Okay, good quality answers, but with the same constraints that you will be writing as well. Okay, so that is that. So I think I've answered all the questions, so I don't have anything more. Okay, so I just want to say, okay, show up, guys. Okay, for every one of these sessions, you basically show up. Don't skip. Okay, even if you can just basically show up to all those 30 sessions. Okay, don't come late. मतलब अगर वो वहाँ पे 5 questions है या वहाँ पे 10 questions हैं, आपने वो 10 questions लिखे हैं, 7 questions लिखे हैं, like just ensure कि whatever I feel you guys would need in order for you to be able to handle your mains well, वो सब आप कर लो. Okay, and वो सब आपको कब करना है? Do not allow for any backlogs to build up. अगर backlogs आ गया, right, it becomes very difficult. We don't have the kind of time. Ideally, आपको 6 months चाहिए for mains. Okay, but for most, for a long time, we basically had 4 months. ठीक है, and 4 months में somehow we figured it out कि ठीक है, ऐसे you have to sort of optimize it. अभी 3 महीने से भी कम है. Okay, it is less time. So you just try your level best to ensure that वो backlogs नहीं है. Okay, and if you come to all of these sessions, okay, and you come and write all those tests on that particular days, I promise you, I will take responsibility for your score. Okay, and your score, मतलब, it will be so good, okay, that मतलब, it will be very good. So do answers need to be in points or in paragraphs or mix of both? See, actually, this is a good question. An interesting name. Where are you from? Are you, Manipur or something? Let me know that. Okay. See, again, the writing, it really depends on the student. So point wise is kind of good. Paragraph is good. Okay. If I write in a style that I'm not comfortable with, I'm not going to score. If you write in a style that you are not comfortable with, you're not going to score. But if you write in points and you write more like GS, nobody's going to score. Okay. I hope this helps. In fact, like one of the students here, Yashaswini, she used to write in paragraphs. Okay. And her paragraphs used to come out a lot better than her points. Okay, I think a lot of it was actually in paragraphs. She has written, I can't tell you how many tests she has written first mains. Okay, before prelims, I think she had like some 15, 20 tests. Post prelim, she had like 15, 20 tests. And that. But she needed that extra words in order to make her analysis a little more in depth. Okay, if I say कि मतलब 2 line में लिख के दिखाओ, like it's just not possible for her. Like I would rather bring depth, sir, and वो depth में 2 line में नहीं हो रहे हैं, so I basically want to go for this thing. Great, it's fine. Okay, even then you've basically been able to score 290. You're still making it to Labasna. Okay, and that too in your very first mains. Okay, let's take it. But you have to see which one works for you. Okay, you have to be comfortable with. But अगर GS type का points लिखोगे, okay, nobody's going to score. मतलब nobody's going to score as in, see, I'm targeting, मतलब whoever I'm basically speaking to, I'm targeting 150 minimum. 2023, 2024 में 150 is basically a good score. You get the picture? If it was like a years before that, 150 is like good score, not great score. You understand, right? Okay, so so whoever is seeing this, I'm basically keeping the benchmark relatively higher. उस टाइप का आंसर लिखना है तो scores, it will not come 120 में अटक जाएगा. Okay. All right, guys. So thank you for being patient and thank you for taking all the advice. Hopefully, you have made some notes and then you will sort of like stick it up in your wherever you're basically sitting. Usko bar bar dekho. It's not very easy to sort of remember all of them, right? Okay. And these are the major sort of principles. What I need from you is basically come and attend all these sessions. I will ensure that your sessions may say up. You're walking away, being a little more sort of comfortable, a little more sort of experienced, and having gone through a little more sort of struggle. Right, so this is basically what is going to be done. Okay, so generally the target is going to be like a few questions that are going to be given to you each day. I may not give you the answers right away because आपका answers initially at least वो answers अच्छे नहीं आएंगे, right? And I don't want you to immediately sort of like be like, okay, so what should have been the answer, right? If you write it by yourself, थोड़ा सा आप सोचोगे, थोड़ा सा आपको introspect करने का time मिलेगा. Okay, next time when you see it, you'll be a lot better. Maybe the next day, maybe the next session, I'll basically give you. ठीक है, but दूंगा, ठीक है, but I will show you good ones here. How to channelize the entire syllabus in this short time. Okay, ensure that your schedule of preparation, your plan of preparation is exactly in sync with what I had shown you in the QEP. Okay, so all of you basically stick to the same schedule. Okay, so whatever we are doing here, you will see a lot more sort of benefit to your preparation. And tell yourself कि मतलब Saturday के अंदर मेरा social cultural to whatever ability I am able to do, whether it is 70%, 80%, 90% या 100%, okay, 100% नहीं होगा. Okay, so it'll be between 70 and 80%, guys. Okay, you might even go through the entire syllabus, but your retention might be only 70 to 80%. Well, this is more realistic. मैं अभी बता रहा हूँ. I'm not saying that you're not that great, that maybe you have studied all of these things, but generally for all good students when you start, okay, sectional test में 70 to 80% is basically what you will get done. But you have to say कि Saturday evening को I'm basically going to take a break from social cultural anthro and I'm going to move to the next module, and so on. थोड़ा सा you can basically spend a little more time, or we will get time later. इसमें आप रहोगे, great. Okay, वरना in chasing after 80% to the last bit यहाँ पे, it'll मतलब आपका पूरा time चला जाएगा. Social cultural will still continue, and the other 6 modules में you'll not be able, you have to sort of like stress there and compress there and compromise there. ये सब होगा, ठीक है. So you ensure that the schedule is exactly the same as what we have planned. We'll both walk together in the same path in the same timeline. Okay, बाकी I'll take care, ठीक है, no need to worry. So that's all for today. So all the very best. And chalo, let's do it. Okay, take care, bye.